Here are the 5 main things that drive people. Let me give them to you real quick. Some people are driven by guilt. They spend their lives running from regrets, hiding from their shame. And guilt-driven people are manipulated by their memories. Guilt-driven people are manipulated by their memories. And that's why we need to have our minds renewed so that our memories do not manipulate us. So we have to learn to adjust what drives us. Instead of guilt driving us, purpose needs to drive us. Why am I on this earth? Get the bigger picture and stop living in the small picture and start living in the big picture. Resentment. Resentment drives people. They hold on to their hurts. They hold on to what people have done to them. And instead of releasing their resentment and releasing their pain through forgiveness, they end up living it over and over again and repeating it over and over again in their minds and justifying why I can't get further, I can't get ahead because of what this person did to me, and until they apologize. Listen, we can't be driven by resentment and our need for somebody who owes us an apology. You need to get to the point where you have accepted the fact that nobody owes me an apology and nobody owes me an explanation. And if you can get to that place where you don't feel anybody owes you that because you didn't give it to God, you didn't give God an apology, you didn't even get saved because you were sorry. You got saved because you believed Jesus rose from the dead. You got saved because you believe his blood cleansed you from sin. It wasn't because you said you were sorry. It was because you put faith in his provision for your sins. You confessed with your mouth Jesus is Lord. You believed in your heart God raised him from the dead, and guess what happened? You were saved. So God didn't even hold you to a standard of you better stop, you better say you're sorry, you better do this, do that, and apologize and explain to me your behavior. You don't have to do all that. You just accept the gift, the free gift of salvation. By grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves is a gift of God. The third thing that we can't be driven by is we can't be driven by fear, and yet this is what drives people. The reason we make the decisions we make, the reason we live the lifestyles we live, the reason why we have the boundaries we have is because we're afraid. We do certain things because we're afraid of what will happen if we don't, and we constantly let fear drive us. But if you let purpose drive you, God created me on purpose, for a design, with a design. And you then will break barriers in your life. You won't live behind a wall of fear. You will live in faith. You will live in coming up out of the water, getting out of the boat. Peter said, Lord, if that's you, command me to come. Everybody else was afraid. Thank God for Peter. At least he got out of the boat. People think of Peter and they say, oh, but he sank in the water. But at least he walked out there. At least he gave it a whirl. At least he gave it a college try, better than a college try. He walked on water. He took a few steps, but then he became afraid. But the point is he got out of his fear by getting out of the water and knowing that there was a purpose. I'm going to meet Jesus there in the middle of the water. I'm going to see him. Lord, if it's you, command me to come. Jesus said, come. And so what did Peter do? He got out of the boat and walked. And he broke out of the barrier of fear because he decided fear is not driving me. Faith is driving me. I'm living by faith, not by fear. You start living that way, living by faith. Abide these 3, faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. This is how we live. This is what should drive us. This is what should motivate us, and this is what will change the world. It starts by changing the way you think. It starts by changing the way you look at things. It starts by changing the way you look at life, the why, the reason why I'm here. Other people are driven by money. Hey, look, there is nothing wrong with having money, and it's better to have it than not have it. Ask anybody. But again, if it's driving you, you're going to compromise and make bad decisions in order to obtain money at the expense of people and at the expense of true joy and true peace, which comes from trusting God and believing God and using and understanding money has a mission. And when you see that your money has a mission, you'll use it in the right way, and you'll invest it in the right ways because you know that money has a mission, money has a purpose. I'm not ever thinking about, I can't wait till I get my big financial breakthrough. One day, I can't wait till somebody gives me $5 million, $10 million, or one business idea. I don't live like that. I look at and say, okay, here's what I have. I'm going to invest some here, and I'm going to do some with this, and I'm going to do some with that. And over time, I know I'm going to win and I'm going to succeed because over time, multiple good decisions strung together over the course of time, even if there's a few bad ones along the way, which there certainly have been for me, ultimately that will produce great success rather than waiting for one miracle financial thing to happen in your life. Just follow a plan and understand that your money has a purpose. The fifth thing that people allow to drive their lives is the need for approval. The need for approval. I think a lot of us have fallen into that category at least once or twice in our lives, I'm sure. But we allow the expectations of children, parents, teachers, friends, what people are going to think of us, what people are going to like about us, whether they like us, whether they give us enough thumbs up, whether they like our post, whether they like our Instagram picture, whether they like, I want to be liked, I want to be approved, I want people to like me, to love me, to need me, to want me. And see, this is when you start making bad decisions, when you value other people's approval more than you value God's approval. When you have God's approval, when you realize God approves of you, you stop seeking it from other places and from other people, and you stop putting more pressure on them. You stop putting more pressure on people to like you, and you put pressure on yourself to meet somebody else's expectations, and you're going to constantly be disappointed. But when we realize we've already met God's expectations by believing in His Son, and He approves of us because of that. He approves of us because we believe. He approves of us because we're now His children. He approves of us because we've put our faith in the cross. We put our faith in the blood. You're approved. So now I'm not going to be driven by approval or my need for it because I have that from God. I'm not going to be driven by money because money is a means to an end, not an end. I'm not going to be driven by fear because there's something greater than the things I'm afraid of, and that's I don't want to miss out on God's purpose for my life, and I don't want to miss out on fulfilling my potential. And so I'm not going to be driven by fear. I'm going to be driven by purpose, which will push me past my fears. And I'm not going to be driven by resentment. I forgive everybody and anybody that's ever done anything to me. I ask forgiveness from anybody and everybody that I've ever done anything against, and I forgive myself because God has forgiven me. Therefore, I'm not going to live in resentment another day in my life.